Welcome back, boys and girls, if that's who you are while watching this video. But you are witnessing the third episode of the Casual Sports Talk.
Yes.
We apologize for the delay on this video. It will be a slight delay, just because it snowed here this weekend.
The first time in 5 years? I think I was like an eighth grader.
Maybe not the first time in 5 years, but the most I've ever seen in my life.
I've never seen more snow than this.
It was like 3 or 4 days of it too.
Yeah,
like
it
it's
was
just
crazy.
now melting. But because of that, we could not film. Because we couldn't drive our cars. Because I drive a beater, and I probably wouldn't have made it over here. So.
Nah, you got a lemon, son.
But we got some pretty interesting things to talk about today. Surprisingly, in the basketball world.
Yeah,
it's
a lot
not.
of basketball today.
We ain't gonna start with football today, because basketball going crazy in a world and the season of football. But we're gonna jump into that first, and then we'll talk about kind of just continuing on the college football playoff train, and then we'll jump into the start of the NFL playoffs that happened this week as well. So not much to talk about this week, but some pretty exciting stuff.
Kind of a good thing we missed last week, because now we got more stuff to talk about today.
Yeah,
So.
but we definitely got to start out with them dogs
Yes, sir.
on the hardwood, taking down some absolute blue chip basketball schools this week.
Yeah.
Starting with number 6, Kentucky. It was crazy. But Drew was there, so what do you think?
That was the first basketball game other than a high school game that I've been to, and I knew Kentucky was always a great powerhouse, and I honestly thought we were about to get beat by 40. And they just kept on fighting and fighting and fighting. In the student section, we were allowed the entire game. The feeling of the stadium, Coliseum, what's it called? Coliseum.
Segment Coliseum.
Coliseum, yeah. The energy,
doghouse, son.
The energy of the Coliseum was rocking the entire night, and we just kind of beat them physically. Like Kentucky, whenever they were going into the game, it was kind of back and forth early on, and then Georgia kind of jumped out to a lead. A couple of their big guys, they got in foul trouble real quick. It was just an amazing performance all around, and the biggest thing that I noticed whenever I was watching the game is if we had anybody get in foul trouble, it was like, all right, next guy up. Like the next guy's going to come in, regardless of who he is, regardless of what star he was at a high school. Like he's going to come and he's just basically going to dominate whatever he's supposed to dominate. So it was an amazing game for my first ever Georgia basketball game to watch. An amazing game.
Historical one too. I mean, this is the first time Georgia's beat Kentucky. A ranked Kentucky team since January 8th, 2011.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
And not only that, but this is the first Georgia win over an AP top 10 opponent since 2020.
Dude, I was a freshman in high school.
So it's been 4 years since they beat a ranked opponent. It's been, 14 years? Am I wrong? 14 years, 2011?
2011? Yeah, 14 years
14 years since they beat a ranked Kentucky team.
That's wild.
You know, like I said, Kentucky is one of them blue chip teams, man. They are the cream of the crop when it comes to basketball.
Yep.
And Georgia they kind of seem to just dominate them at every level of the game.
Physically, mentally, just all around it just kind of seemed like I'm not trying to be biased here because, I do go to UGA. But at the same time, watching that game, it was a home game. The crowd was into it. Even the players, you could tell they were amped up, and just it almost seemed like mentally they wanted it more, physically they wanted it more, and they just outperformed them physically and mentally. So it was just an all-around great game played by Georgia and just dominating Kentucky. And I know it was only I want to say 14, 15-point win, and I don't know if that's big margin in basketball because I don't watch that much, but 15-point win in any other game is pretty big margin. So
I definitely just feel like with this Georgia team, Georgia's not known for basketball, so it's like you have to make up for this disparity, or not really disparity, but this kind of, I guess you could say, lack of talent that Georgia has between each player. You have to make up for that lack of talent somewhere, and I think head coach Mike White does a great job of just pulling all the guys together, and you can tell that they all play one way, the right way, in unison as one unit on both sides of the court. And I think that's I think this isn't the last time we're gonna well, this wasn't the last time we saw them be a ranked opponent, because
Yeah.
only 4 days later, we'll move on to their next game against number 17 Oklahoma, where it was worse than Kentucky. They dominated even more and seemed like it was even less of a challenge
Yeah.
facing this ranked opponent back to back after Kentucky. So, what do you kind of think about this game?
Sadly, I wasn't able to go to this game with the weather and everything that was happening. I tried to go to the game, didn't really want to drive if the roads were icy, but I still did look at some of the stats, some of the highlights, and it just seemed like Georgia once again was just a team who is mentally and physically like wanting it more. Like Georgia is always football school, kind of a baseball school a little bit, but it seems like Georgia's developing kind of into a basketball school because we may not have the number one pick of the draft, or we may not have the most notable people on our team, but like you said, they just kind of go out there, dominate, do what they're supposed to do, and it's just next man up. So
Yeah, and like I said, I previously mentioned the lack of talent, but really we do have some big names in the upcoming draft. We got Asa Newell,
Yeah.
the freshman. He's just great on both ends of the court, gives great effort. He's super athletic, and that's another just theme of this Georgia basketball team is just athleticism, hustle, size. It seems like they have just the perfect storm to be set up as the next Cinderella team in this upcoming March Madness.
and we have two people who are 6'11".
Yeah, we
like
got
that dude.
two
Asa-
almost 7-footers.
Yeah,
Is just something great.
Asa
to have.
Newell and Surreal.
Yeah.
Like it's literally surreal that we have two people who are 6'11" on our team. I mean, that's one of the biggest things physically is we shut down Kentucky's bigs in the game that I watched. Just those two guys just getting in their heads, and they got into foul trouble real quick, and they just kept on getting board after board after board, and there was a couple dunks over people, and it was just we out-physicaled them that game.
Yeah, you know what Georgia basketball said this week? Why all this happened? You know, they're just looking around campus. They're seeing all this gloom and doom on the first week of classes from this the Georgia defeat in the playoffs early on, and they said, we ain't having it.
No.
They were not having it. And
No.
they said, we the hardwood dogs on this campus, and we going to get this energy up, baby.
Yes, sir.
They got that energy up.
The energy's definitely up around Georgia basketball right now, but they do have kind of a tough schedule coming up. So
Yeah, they gonna have to ride that energy, man.
Yeah.
They got
they have number one Auburn, and then they go play.
3 straight games, isn't it?
Yeah, they have number one Auburn coming to town. Then you have number 6 Tennessee, I believe it is. Then you play Arkansas, and then I believe you go play Alabama, who's ranked number 5 or something like that. So we have 3 top 6 opponents in our next 4 games. So
yeah, they definitely got the gauntlet being in the SEC, and at the beginning of this SEC play, they've done great, and I think it's so important that they kick this off. They did start it with a loss in SEC play to Ole Miss, I believe.
Yeah.
But these last 2 games have been absolutely huge, and I think they have every chance to ride this momentum all the way through SEC play into the end-of-season tournament, the March Madness tournament, and they can really make some noise if they keep building on this momentum and just using the tools they have correctly. It all kind of leans on Mike White and what he can do with this team. He's already shown that he's done great things with them, and it's just exciting to see what they're going to continue to do.
I sure do hope so.
Oh, we forgot to mention, they are ranked. Georgia is number 23. It was posted this Monday by the AP. They are number 23, and I think this is the first time since 2013 that they've been ranked. So that's something else they can ride off of, and now they have something to play for, because with these upcoming ranked games, they're really going to have to want to stay ranked, and they can use that as another motivational piece to play off of there. So they got a lot of things going for them right now. They got a lot of energy from the crowd. That Oklahoma game, it was another home game right after that Kentucky one, and the students absolutely showed out. They was hitting the swag surf. They had the pads there. The what are they called?
The spike pads.
The what do they call them? The pad crew. What do they call them?
Oh, the paint crew. Or paint
crew, something like that. But they was there. They was in attendance. The whole one side of the Coliseum was just full of students.
Yeah.
They was all together. They're behind their school. They're behind their basketball team. It's going to be something to see with this Georgia team this year.
I'm ready for it.
All right, now let's move on to the professional side and talk about some NBA. And there was one big event that happened this week, kind of a matchup of the ages, maybe the best game that we have seen in the regular season in the NBA in the past 10 years, in the past decade. I'm talking about the matchup between the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers. These are two absolute juggernauts that went up against each other. They're number one in the East versus number one in the West. Number one defense in the league in OKC versus the number one offense in the league versus the Cleveland Cavaliers. Two teams that have been on an absolute heater, not only all season, but they were both on huge win streaks these past few weeks. The Cavaliers came into this game with, I believe, a 15-game win streak, or maybe it was the other way around. I think it was 15 for the OKC Thunder, and it was 10 for the Cavs.
Yeah.
So combined 25-game win streak on the line for these two teams. And the Cleveland Cavaliers ended up going and getting it done in their on their home court. They ended up beating the OKC Thunder 129-122. But this game was just it had it all. You know, like I said, the top defense versus the top offense. We saw kind of just all game. It was just back and forth basketball, streaks all game. A high-scoring game in the 120. So that you saw great offense. But you see two teams still clashing.
Yeah.
They still had great defensive moments between each team. But I think what kind of pushed the Cavs over the hump to get this win on this particular day was just their size on the court over OKC. They kind of missed out on Chet Holmgren. He's been out for a while. And they also missed out on their glue guy and Alex Caruso, kind of a defensive anchor for the guards. And the Cavs are just they're just special this year, man. They got it all. This team has been built incredibly well, not only through the draft but through free agency and trades. They have the size. They have two true 7-footers in Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley that just mesh so well together. And it's so fun to watch because the coaching style and the scheme that they play, they play through their size. They play through their bigs. They play through the pick and roll. They get Jarrett Allen and Evan Mobley in the dunker position, but they also allow them to play make out of this position. So they love running the pick and roll, getting down low, drawing in the help, and kicking it out where they have great shooters. They just got Max Strus back. He went for 17 points and went 5 for 6 from the three-point line. And he missed 27 games this season, so that was a huge just addition to get him back in the lineup. So it was a great game. The Cavs, they had the advantage this day, but we get to see it all again just this Thursday. So we're going to see the OKC Thunder and the Cleveland Cavaliers run it back with a swiftness. This is peak basketball, and this just kind of speaks to what we talked about kind of when we talked about the All-Star game and all these changes. This just proves that the hype around this game just proves that all these fans want to see, all these loyal fans want to see is good basketball. This was the number one seed in the West versus the number one seed in the East. This is what we need. It's got our numbers up. I think the peak viewership on just this regular season matchup on a Wednesday night, and it had 2 million viewers, 2 million peak viewers. So, I mean, look at Christmas. Christmas is the biggest day of the year for the NBA usually, and it only had 5 million a game. And now we see on this random Tuesday, when there's good basketball, good matchups, good storylines, that there's still fans that still want to watch this game. So I think this is huge for the NBA. We're in a great time, not only in the NBA, but everywhere in basketball. And I'm excited to see the matchup. This is definitely going to we've definitely already witnessed this being a potential finals matchup.
Okay, yeah.
So we've definitely seen this as a potential finals matchup, and we get to see it again this Thursday. It's awesome. Basketball's awesome. They're on a roll right now. March Madness coming up for college, all the conference play happening in college. The NBA having great matchups like this, great storylines, two great teams that we usually don't see. We're seeing this just parity coming back to the NBA where two teams like this we do see compete on a random Wednesday night and a Thursday night, and we do get to see this again. So basketball, I think is in a great spot for potential growth and potential revamping and just resurgence. So, anything you got to say?
Who do you think wins the game? I know you're not like a
This Thursday?
I know you're not a super fan of either team, but I know you watch enough to know your ball. I mean, do you think Cleveland can win back-to-back games here? Do you think OKC gets another one here, or what do you think happens?
It's a toss-up, dude. I mean, this game this first game had 20, somewhere in the 20. I think it was 26, 27 lead changes throughout the game, all the way up till about a minute left in the fourth quarter, where Cavs just kind of pulled away there, and I think it ended up 7-point win. Yeah. 7-point win for the Cavs. So it's hard to say. These two teams, I think this is the closest matchup we've seen between the East and West teams since the Cavs and Warriors, back in the heyday. Yeah. Back in 2014 to 2019, where we just saw them going at it every year for almost an entire decade, just clean, beautiful basketball. And I think this matchup has the potential to do that again. You don't have big names yet, because these are two young teams. You don't have the legendary names like LeBron and Curry. But, dude, these two teams were built correctly through the draft. They have young players. All of them are young, and they're all locked up. I don't see any of these rosters breaking up anytime soon. I don't see anybody leaving. I think they're locked up for a while, and this could be something that we could see as a great rivalry for the next 10 years.
Yeah, so. I mean, props to the Cavs. I mean, you got to think about it after LeBron left, Kyrie was gone. Everyone's kind of thinking Cavaliers probably just going to go off and it's just going to be forgotten about. And they're going to be this historical team who had this big, great decade after LeBron left. But, I mean, when did he leave? 2019-ish?
Yeah, he signed with the Lakers in 2019.
Yeah, he signed with the Lakers.
No. Yeah.
Because he won with
somewhere
the bubble.
Around there, yes.
He won with the Lakers in the bubble in 2020, but we're talking 5 years later, and they're one of the powerhouses of the NBA again, and they have a young team, a powerful team. You said they're all locked up. So, I mean, props to the Cavs in the way that they've just went about revamping their team back up to
But I think they do have Donovan Mitchell, he is a star in this league. He's a borderline superstar. But I think that's what works so well for this Cavs team is that they don't have any what's the word I'm trying to think of? They don't have any egos. They don't have any huge stars. They all stay in their own lane. They go to work every day. There's just a humbleness about this team. Everybody knows their role. They work on their role and they play their role to perfection. And I think that's why this Cavs team is so dangerous and why they have made it back up the ranks as one of, if not the best team in the NBA. So the Thunder, like I said, just as good, but I could see their downfall being that they may have some distractions that the Cavs don't have. They do have egos. Yeah. Not in a bad way, but like Shai, he's a superstar on and off the court. He's a star. He's in the light all the time. Chet Holmgren is the same way, a young star both on and off the court. But these can cause these distractions. But I don't see anyone on the Cavs that have these kind of distractions. They all just go to work. They know their job. They know they're here to play basketball. They all have a common goal, and I could see this Cavs team being very dangerous through the rest of this season and in the playoffs. I think the Cavs have just got it. So if you're asking me who I think will win this Thursday, I think it's going to be the Cavs again. Yeah. And I don't know, man. I just think they got that chemistry to them. I think they got everything going right for them. And they got a great leader in Kenny Atkinson. He's got great schemes. He knows how to use his players. He knows how to play through this pick and roll like I talked about earlier. I think they just got it all going for him. And I think if I got to choose one, if I'm forced to choose between these two teams, I think I'm rocking with the Cavs. I just see something in them that they just seem like a championship contender in the sense that they don't have any outside distractions. It doesn't seem like they all just go to work every day. So
they're just all there to ball at the end of the day.
Exactly. I just see that in them. So yeah, this is the NBA definitely needs a 7-game series between these two teams. So I'm ready to see it. I'm excited for it, and I hope we get to see it.
Yeah. So I hope we do too.
All right, so now I'll move on to the end of last week where we saw the college football playoff semifinals take place. And we started off on Thursday night with the Orange Bowl between Notre Dame and Penn State, where Notre Dame actually ended up taking the win, 27-24, on a game-winning field goal, wasn't it?
Yes.
So why don't you break that down, Drew?
Yeah, so Penn State was favored by 1.5 points, and I personally kind of thought Penn State was going to pull it out. And First half started off a little bit slow going into halftime. It was 10-3. The biggest kind of story with the first half of the game was Riley Leonard, the quarterback for Notre Dame, actually had to be pulled out of the game in the midway through the second quarter with a potential concussion and head injury. Luckily enough for Notre Dame, he was able to come out and play the second half, where things started to get hot for the offenses as it was 24-24, and Notre Dame had just Penn State had just got the ball back with 47 seconds left, and Drew Allard's trying to go down the field, and the second play of the possession, he throws a pick on Penn State's own 42-yard line. Mm-hmm. Well, then Riley Leonard was able to get the ball all the way down to Penn State's 23-yard line, where Mitch Jeter, what a name, where Mitch Jeter, the kicker for Notre Dame, was able to kick a 41-yard field goal. Dude, Mitch Jeter's a stud name, Mitch Jeter. But hey, Notre Dame ended up winning the game. It wasn't quite as time expired, so it wasn't really a walk-off, but it essentially was a walk-off field goal. Go ahead at the last second. But, I mean, Notre Dame, once again, just fought, and once again, like we said, the past 2-3 weeks with this team, they won it. Like, this team wants it so bad. And they were mentally and physically tough, continued to grind. And, I mean, for how much, like, it hurts as a Georgia fan seeing Notre Dame continue to go on. But the coach, Marcus Freeman, I mean, he has that team right. Like, he has a team who's willing to put in the effort and willing to put in the time and get the job done. So, Notre Dame is going to play in the national championship. The winner of this game, Ohio State. So I'll let you introduce that game.
And, before we introduce this game, I just want to talk about, like, the beginning of this playoffs were a little iffy. The first round was pretty garbage, if we're being honest. But as it's gone on, these games have kind of been better and better as it's went on. So I think this college football playoffs, this is what we said from the beginning. There's a few things that are iffy about it. But this 12-team playoff, man, it creates some amazing storylines. We've had some great upsets. Yeah. It's been awesome, and it really does. I think it's done a great job of funneling down the teams that deserve to be in the championship when that time comes. You wouldn't expect Notre Dame to be here. I don't think many people did, but
I still feel like they should play in a conference. But
yeah, that's a whole story for a different day, which I believe they are discussing rules for.
Oh, for real?
I
would like that.
I saw something today about how they're what's not fair about it is I was reading something that said you get so much money for making it so far. You get like $14 million.
So making the game that they played, and I believe going to the national championship, they made $14 million.
Yeah, but if it was like, say, Georgia and they're in the SEC, they have to split that money between what, 12? How many teams are in the SEC?
So there's 16 teams. So basically each team would get around like $1.16 million, but Notre Dame gets to profit all of this since they're not splitting it up anywhere.
And that's
else.
A huge problem when we're talking about these NILs and this revenue sharing, and teams are going to be able to put these players on contracts now. So how is it fair that this one team gets to take in all this money and not split it with nobody, and they're about to take all that money and use it to sign more players? So this is going to create this absolute disparity. It's not going to be fair at all that this one team is going to have so much more money they're getting. It just destroys fairness within the NCAA. So this is going to have to be addressed. Like this is beyond anything that can just be let go.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a huge problem.
That was one of my biggest concerns whenever they started talking about NIL, and I know that as a Georgia fan, we're still going to benefit from it. But whenever there's a team such as Notre Dame who makes $14 million for going to the championship game, I mean, that's $14 million that they can throw at a dude, and that's money that Georgia has to split up between other 15 teams who really didn't do anything other than Tennessee, Texas, and Georgia this year. So,
but like I said, there is some very glaring issues with within this playoff, but I think the way they have it set up overall, this 12 team is just perfect. It's the teams that deserve to be in there. Well, that's a little bit debatable, but the teams that are in there, it creates great storylines. It was harder to see at the start of this playoff, but as this went on, we've seen great games, just great parity, great storylines. It's had it all. And and I think it's been an overall success. But there's definitely things that still need to be worked on.
Most definitely.
Yeah, there's definitely things that need to be worked on. But it wasn't exactly the same story for Ohio State and Texas, as it was not as close, with Ohio State taking the win 28-24 in the Cotton Bowl over Texas. What do you got to say about it, Drew?
So Ohio State won 28-14. They were favored by 5.5 points, covered. And it was kind of a back-and-forth game. I know the score looks 14-point deficit, but Quinn Ewers in Texas scored a touchdown with 29 seconds left to tie up the game 7-7 going into the halftime, until 16 seconds later, Travion Henderson rushed for a 75-yard touchdown to take a 14-7 lead at halftime against the Longhorns.
Sounds familiar.
Sounds very familiar. But so Texas would later on go in the final minutes of the third quarter, where they would tie it up 14-14. Ohio State would then retaliate with another touchdown, making it 21-14, and then giving Quinn Ewers the ball with 4 minutes left to try to tie up the game. Well, it looked like they were about to do that as they got down to Ohio State's 1-yard line, first and goal from the 1-yard line. Well, Texas decided to throw a pitch or a sweep out, try to not run up the middle, and loses 7 yards. Instead of just running the ball up the middle, they lost 7 yards. Well, then it got to the point where there was an incomplete pass on third down. You have to go forward on fourth down. So Quinn Ewers tries to do his best to find somebody in the end zone, drops back to pass where he's hit by Jack Sawyer, who picks up the ball and returns it for 92 yards, scoop and score. And that kind of put the final nail in the coffin after they took the 28-14 lead with like 2 minutes left. Really couldn't do anything. So it almost came down to the wire. We almost saw overtime, or we almost saw a game-winning drive by Will Howard and Ohio State. But just, I mean, you're on the 1-yard line. Ask Pete Carroll. Run the dang ball. Yeah. Run the ball up the middle.
It feels like there's many coaches that just don't understand that.
But I feel like whenever I'm watching these games, I feel like a lot of coaches, and I have no, expertise in coaching, but I feel like there's so many times where you see a coach who's like, oh, I'm going to outsmart him right here, whether it's the OC or the head coach making the play call.
Some stuff just makes too much sense to some coaches.
It's almost like they see 4 opportunities to get 1 yard by running it up the middle, and they just, I'm going to outsmart them. I'm going to be smarter than everybody else. So it just, I don't understand why you don't just try to run it up, unless you just don't trust your offense. But, I mean, you've been able to run the ball good. You have great O-line this season. So it just confused me, and it kind of cost Texas the game. So, we'll see Notre Dame face off against Ohio State in the national championship, which is kind of crazy. I never thought I would see either one of those two teams in the national championship
Hey, this is exactly what NCAA wants, though. This is going to create so much revenue, just 2 historical teams going up against each other. I don't know. I don't think Notre Dame's going to compete.
No.
I didn't think anyone was going to compete with Ohio State. Like we said in the last video, I don't know, man. Texas did compete, but I think Ohio State just had to remember who they were in the final couple minutes, and they had huge plays in the second half that only Ohio State could have, man.
Exactly.
Just 75-yard touchdowns, scooping scores, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
I don't think anybody – I still don't believe anybody's competing with Ohio State. I think they are the national champions. I mean, I'm just saying.
They are the national championship.
The Ohio State national champions.
Yeah, but looking at the game, right now currently Ohio State's favored by 5.5 points, which I feel like is probably, if I'm betting, I'm taking Ohio State.
I think they should take the decimal away and favor them by 55 points.
I mean, maybe not that much, but, I mean, they may put up 55. I mean, Georgia TCU action, but I don't think it's going to be that bad. But
I do.
Just some stats with these are 2 historical college football programs that have meant so much to college football over the years. And the last time that Ohio State won a national championship, and I believe the last time they ever went to a national championship game possibly, was in 2014 under head coach Urban Meyer, and it was the first year of the college football playoffs. So Urban Meyer, I mean, he took that team to the national championship. Then Urban Meyer, other story. And then the last time that Notre Dame won a national championship was in 1988 with legendary head coach Lou Holtz. So it shows you why Notre Dame could be so determined to win a national championship finally. And, I mean, it's been almost a decade since Ohio State won one. So, I mean, both these teams are super historic teams.
I don't think no motivation is enough for Notre Dame. I don't think they don't got nothing they can play off of that's going to give them enough juice to take down this Ohio State team. It ain't happening. It ain't happening, Brandon. It ain't happening.
Yeah,
it ain't happening. I mean, I don't know.
I just think Ohio State has so much, like, skill and physicality, and they just have so much depth to where I feel like Notre Dame's not going to be able to stop this. I mean, I feel like Notre Dame and Penn State are very similar competition, and I feel like I can't remember if Ohio State and Penn State played this year. I want to say they did, and I think Ohio State won. But I just feel like Ohio State's going to stop the Riley Leonard at quarterback, and I just feel like Notre Dame doesn't have enough. Like, they're a great team, don't get me wrong.
They just outweigh them talent-wise everywhere around the field, man. Congratulations, Ohio State. You're national champions.
Yeah, we can go ahead and deem it now. Hopefully this doesn't blow up in our faces. But one thing, kind of a little side note about the game, is I saw a video or an image of Ohio State's home uniforms and Notre Dame's home uniforms. And they're both, like, historic uniforms, very like, oh, wow, this is definitely Notre Dame, this is Ohio State. And I feel like they need to make some kind of pact to where both teams can wear their home uniforms. Because it's just like, it's just too good not to wear. Because it's red, and then it's their, like, dark blue with the gold helmets, and then you got the stars on the Ohio State helmet. Dude, that would be that's like a college football video game right there. Just customizing your uniforms, gotta have it. So hopefully they can figure out some way to bring that. And it's in the Mercedes-Benz Stadium. So
I think they should both wear all white.
Nah,
man.
Not all white.
Let them wear the home and home.
Let them wear the home, but yeah.
All right, let's take a look at these NFL playoffs that started also last week.
Yeah.
So we'll start off with the absolute heartbreak for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers as they fall 23-20.
Ain't no heartbreak for a Falcons fan, man. This was beautiful watching it.
Nah, man. We got to have professional journalistic standards here. This was a heartbreak for the Buccaneers. And I do feel for Baker Mayfield.
I do.
Because that boy is an absolute dog.
I seen him after the game ended, and he was kind of sitting there on the bench. Like, he put everything he could on the field. Like, he tried his absolute best. He fought for this team all season, barely made it into the playoffs. And, I mean, it's just kind of sad seeing the way that they went out. Yeah, they ended up losing 23-20. They lost on a game-winning field goal as time expired, and it was doinked off the right upright. So it was as close as you can get to missing without missing. So it's heartbreak for the Buccaneers. Absolute ecstatic feeling for the Commanders.
How about that kicker geeking before he went out there too?
Oh yeah, dude.
And that's like their fourth kicker, I heard, of like
sixth. This is the sixth kicker they've had this season for the Commanders.
Dude, this guy was saying, if I don't make this, I'm jobless.
Well, I remember whenever Zane Gonzalez got in the league, he won like the kicker of the year in college, and I want to say he started with the Patriots, and it was rough. So I see Zane Gonzalez walking out here, and I'm like, there's a good shot he may miss this.
This was his one opportunity to solidify a career.
Yeah, like he may have a career because of that kick right there. So, I mean, and just the Buccaneers kind of looked dominant in the first half. I mean, you had Mike Evans, who had 7 targets, 7 receptions, 92 yards, and a touchdown. But then you also had Terry McLaurin for the Commanders, who had 7 receptions, 89 yards, 1 touchdown. So, I mean, it was an amazing offensive game between the two teams, and just came down to the last minute.
Yeah,
so,
I think the rookie man, Jaden Daniels.
Oh,
he was
MVP.
the X factor.
MVP.
Yep.
And sadly, this was one of the closest games. All the other games kind of we're probably just going to run through the other games. Not much big really happened. So the next game was the Rams versus the Vikings. The Rams ended up winning 29-7. Really wasn't a whole lot happening. The biggest thing for the Rams was they shut down Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison, who were the 2 best receivers and probably top 20 receivers in the league. And those 2 combined only had 8 receptions for 87 yards. So once I saw that, I'm like, all right, there's no reason why that the Vikings should have won if that is your stats of the best 2 receivers. So that's basically that. Viking season's over. It's sad. Sam Darnold's probably going to go sign somewhere, and best of luck with J.J. McCarthy. Next game, Eagles versus the Packers. Eagles ended up winning 22-10. It was kind of sad for the Packers. They really didn't have much hope after in the third quarter. They lost their 2 best receivers in Romeo Doubs to a concussion and Jaden Reed to a shoulder injury. After that, it was just kind of scraps for them. Jordan Love had no touchdowns and 3 interceptions that game. Really wasn't a great game overall for the Packers just due to injury and everything. Then in the AFC, basically all blowouts once again. The Bills played the Broncos, and this game looked like promising competition in the first half. It was 10-7 right before halftime, and Will
Didn't
Lutz.
the Bills just remembered who they were?
Yeah, it all started with Will Lutz, who played for Sean Payton and the Saints for so long. He's a veteran kicker, and kicked a 50-yarder. Probably would have been good from 70, it looked like, but he just doinked it off the right post. So luckily he didn't get the Zane Gonzalez bounce into the uprights, but the Bills would go on to score 21 points.
He didn't comb his hair enough, did he?
Apparently not, man.
He didn't touch the helmet. He didn't do that enough. He
didn't
didn't do it at all.
Didn't do it at all.
He didn't have no juice.
Nah, no juice. I got no gas with it.
Yep.
But the Bills ended up going to score 21 points, winning the game 31-7. Next game is the Ravens versus the Steelers. So this is supposed to be a big matchup.
Yeah, this was an interesting one, I thought. But it didn't end up being anything.
I mean, I was hoping the Steelers would kind of put up a little bit more fight, but I mean, the Ravens were hot. I mean, in the first half, they took a 21-0 lead. Steelers scored 14 points, trying to come back a little bit, but I mean, 21-0 deficit was just too much to come back from. Ended up falling 28-14. I mean, Ravens covered. They were favored by 9.5, and if I was betting on this game, I would have took the Steelers just because. I mean, the AFC North, I believe it is. It's notorious for having like these close in division like games, but wasn't the story of this one.
This has stirred up a lot of talk about Mike Tomlin and what his future looks like in Pittsburgh. Yeah, I think he hasn't won a playoff game since 2016.
Yeah, it's been rough for
it's going to be very interesting to see what his future looks like.
He's just riding off of a Super Bowl win that I believe happened in 2009 when Ben Roethlisberger was like a new quarterback to the league. And the biggest thing that I hear from stats about Mike Tomlin is he's never had a losing season. He's always had a winning season every single year that he's been there, I believe. So I mean that's great, but you don't root for your team to have a winning season every year. You root for Super Bowls.
There's just a couple names in sports, man, that they don't compete once it comes to the time where they really need to. You know, I think about James Harden in the NBA. Yeah. You know, it's hard to say he's one of the most prolific scorers in NBA history, but when it comes time to really compete, he kind of disappears, you know. Even Ronald Acuna the past couple years for the Braves,
that's exactly what I was
he's
thinking
absolutely of. Just, you know, wet
batting
the bed.
under 200 in the playoffs when he's winning MVPs.
You know, one of those absolute legendary all-time players when it comes to garnering them stats in the regular season, but then it comes time to get in that competitive a heightened level of this competitive nature, and they just don't got it like that. And I think it's looking like the same for head coach Mike Tomlin. I just don't think I don't think he's been able to get in that mindset that he did that year when they won the Super Bowl. I don't think he's been able to get back to that in a very long time. So I think some people just are like that.
It sucks because you have such a great player on their defensive line with T.J. Watt, brother of J.J. Watt, and I mean one of the top 3 defensive players like every single season that he plays. So it's just sad to see a player like T.J. Watt consistently just having early exits in the playoffs. But going to the last game of the playoffs we're going to talk about is another blowout with the Texans versus the Chargers. Texans won 32-12, and there was no bright spots for the Chargers except one man. And this is a man who I really wish that the Falcons would have got, even though we don't need a wide receiver. And that man's name is Ladd McConkey. I mean, he went off. He had 9 receptions for 197 yards and 1 touchdown. The entire offense of the Chargers had 261 yards.
Yeah, I think he now holds the record for most yards in a playoff debut by a rookie.
I think so. I think I did see that.
So insane, man. 200 yards in your first playoff game ever. He's different, man. He's a dog. I mean, what you got to say, man?
He's a dog.
He comes from down south, man.
Exactly.
I mean, what do you got to say?
He's a dog. But I mean, it's just kind of sad whenever you see a dog like this. And I mean, every player on the offense only had 64 yards combined, and Ladd McConkey had nearly 200.
Yeah.
So it was just Justin Herbert had one of the worst games he's probably played.
Yeah.
He got picked off 4 times, had no touchdowns, and then their defense forced 2 fumbles as well.
Yeah.
So
I think the Chargers have a lot to look up to, though. I think they just need to keep building. They got a bunch of young players. They got a few great young players.
Yeah.
I think they just need to keep getting Justin Herbert a few more weapons to work with, a few more receivers, and just people to throw to. I wouldn't put it all on him. There were a couple that just slipped through some hands for an interception, but it looked ugly. But I think the Chargers, new great coach and Harbaugh, they got great young players. I think they got a lot to look forward to in the future.
Yeah, most definitely. So that's all the games that happened this weekend, and we'll just kind of give you the rundown of the games that are going to happen coming in the future with the playoffs. So you're going to have the number 1 seed Lions versus the number 6 seed Commanders, where the Lions are favored by 9 points. This is the first time they've played this season, and the Lions, for how dominant they've been, there's just I don't think the Lions are going to be able to pull this off just due to the sheer amount of injuries that they've had to face this year. So with the Dan Campbell, like, very physical team, with that comes very gruesome injuries, and they just had so many injuries, and I hope the Lions can pull it out just because, I mean, I want to see the Lions continue to go just because they've been notoriously bad, and now they're finally on the upcome. But the next game that is featured in the NFL is the number 2 Eagles versus the number 4 Rams. The Eagles are favored by 6 points, and this is actually a rematch of a game played November 24th where the Eagles won 37-20. And one bad news for the Eagles is linebacker Nakobe Dean, a dog, will miss the rest of the playoffs after having a knee injury versus the Packers. So
huge game changer.
He's huge game changer. I miss him on the Georgia defense. Happy that he's with the
great leader too.
Oh, 100%.
That's a very underrated attribute there.
100%. So going to the AFC now, we're going to go on to the Chiefs and the Texans. I don't know what to say about the Chiefs at this point anymore, dude. I don't know what to say about the Chiefs at this point. But the biggest storyline for this game is Patrick Mahomes' first game since Christmas. First game back since Christmas. See how he'll play. This game was played December 21st, and the Chiefs won 27-19. So they already beat the Texans once. Patrick Mahomes finally back. Texans are down 2 of their best receivers with Tank Dell and Stephon Diggs, meaning that Nico Collins, another one of their great receivers, is going to have to carry the load of the passing game, essentially. So, and then to the last game, probably the most competitive in the game that I'm looking forward to the most this playoff is a number 2 seeded Bills and the number 3 Ravens. Ravens are actually favored in this one by 1. So this game is a rematch of a game that happened September 29th, and the Ravens won by a good bit. They won 35-10, and the only thing is the leading receiver for the Ravens, Zay Flowers, is questionable for this matchup. I do not believe that he played in the game prior with the Ravens against the Steelers, but I mean, this is one of the biggest matchups that I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, this is primetime football, baby. Josh Allen versus Lamar.
It's potential MVP going at it once again.
Whoever wins this game gets it.
I think just put the MVP on the line for this game.
Yep.
Like, whoever wins the game, MVP, guaranteed. I mean, I think that's essentially how it is. And that's basically the playoffs that we talked about and that is coming up this week. So, nice little slate. But do you have anything else to say, Gavin?
No, man. I'm definitely excited to see this Bills-Ravens game, though. So
yeah.
Who do you think? Who do you got for the Super Bowl?
So
who do you have winning?
Who do I want or who do I have?
What's the matchup and who's winning it?
Who do I want or who do I have?
Who do you want and then who do you have?
I want it to be Lions and Bills, and I want either one of those teams to win. Who do I think? I think it's going to be Eagles and Ravens. I think Ravens will beat the Bills. If Zay Flowers plays, I think Ravens beat the Bills. And then I think the Eagles can handle the Lions or the Commanders, as long as they actually show up and play, and as long as A.J. Brown keeps on reading his books on the sidelines, which apparently makes him have some good luck on the field. I think the Ravens will probably win the Super Bowl this year. I think the Ravens will beat the Eagles. So I think this is Lamar Jackson's year that he can finally get it done. Me preferably, I don't want him to make it to the Super Bowl because I want to see the Bills make it to the Super Bowl and Josh Allen, and I want to see this year be Josh Allen's year. But I think the Ravens are just going to out-physical the Bills. So, yeah. But thank you so much for watching this episode. Just continue to stay with us as we continue to try to get better each and every week. Hopefully we'll start posting somewhere on the weekends every single week now, as long as there's no more snow, no more crazy incidents like that. But just continue to stay with us, continue to follow our journey as we continue to get better and put out a better production for y'all. So we'll see y'all. Bye-bye.